different chess columnists and journalists, they prefer one game to another as the best game. They think this is the best game ever played, or the other one was the best game. Well, we have many different opinions, and interestingly enough, they are all right in the way. There are a lot of good games. There is no one set criteria. Like, there are basic criteria, what do you go by, but evaluation is all like you cannot say this is the best game. It's like there are very many good games. It's like what is the best kind of food. You cannot say what best food is. To me, this one is the best food. To you, you like the other kind of food. So same is the chess game. There are a lot of greatest chess games, and especially there are so many great games were played, it's so difficult to choose from. My all-time favorite best game is game between Beliavsky and Kasparov. This game was Grunfeld defense, d4, knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3, d5, knight f3, bishop g7, queen b3, dc, queen takes c4. This is one of the oldest variations of Grunfeld defense, and it's very, very sharp variation. Now, to make a little comment about this game in general, we don't know how much of it was a preparation for white or for black. We know that both players, they dedicate a lot of their time and analysis to the opening part. And especially when we talk about analysis in a sharp variation of some openings, this analysis, the result of the analysis, result of how deep it was analyzed, may be decisive for this game. I cannot tell you how deep was the home preparation, but I can tell you that this game became the most favorite game of all times ever played. Black castled. We are still in the opening part of this game, knight a6, so we are not going to discuss this part. Bishop e2, c5, d5, e6, bishop g5, e takes d, knight takes d5, bishop e6, and white castled long. Now we know that position is going to be, game is going to be very, very sharp, because we know it's almost always in chess when you see the opponent castled on the opposite side, and that's the case in this game, that position will be, game will be very, very sharp. Black played bishop takes d5, rook takes d5, queen to b6, and after e5, queen to b6, actually white played bishop takes f6, queen takes f6, and e5, and queen f5. Now, I'm almost sure that this was part of Beliavsky's preparation for this game. White has very promising position. That's what it looks like. Now let's evaluate this position. Black's dark square bishop is blocked, but on the other side, it's like one step away from participating on this diagonal once e5 pawn is gone, or black can play bishop to h6 check. This is a real threat at this point. If, for instance, if it was white's move after bishop h6, black's move, then after bishop h6, white has serious problems. So after queen to f5, so white has very strong position of rook on d5 and possibility attacking on a king side, and we gonna see just that. Bishop to d3, black goes queen to c8. There is no good square besides queen c8. Queen to c8 and rook to d1. Now you can compare activity of white's pieces and black's. White's pieces are a lot more active, seemingly, but black has few advantages on their own. I understand that black on rook on f8 and rook on a8 are not active enough, but you see white's king is little more exposed than black's. So attack has to go on both sides of the board. Black is going to attack white, and white is going to attack black. b5 played by black, and obviously white cannot recapture the pawn because of knight to c7. So white played queen to h4. Now knight b4 played by the black, and white plays bishop takes g6. Very, very interesting tactical shot. hg is not good for black because after knight g5 they're going to experience very serious problems. For instance, on rook e8 there is a threat of knight or queen h7 checkmate. After rook e8, queen h7 check, king f8, rook d7, white is probably lost, threatening rook f7 check. So black was forced to capture with f pawn. Black plays f, takes g, and now rook to d7. Queen e8 was played by the black. Now what is the threat in this position? White wants to play knight g5, and on h6 possibly knight e6. Also there is a very powerful threat of queen e7, and you see doubling on 7th rank, black is going to have serious problems. So after rook d7, black played queen e8, and after queen e8 they stop queen e7 penetration, and also they stop knight g5 because h6 and there is no knight e6. But when white played rook e7, here comes the brilliancy played and deep calculation, results of deep calculation by the black. g5 is not good because of queen takes g5, and on queen g6 white has, actually g5 was okay, and after queen g5, queen g6, queen takes g6, hg. Maybe g5 was a good move, but however this position is far from being clear. It's still better probably for black, but white has some counter chances. The continuation in the game is a lot more complicated and I think is a lot more decisive and powerful. So bishop h6 check. You see obviously white cannot take the bishop because queen is going to take on e7, and after king b1, rook to d8. This is fascinating maneuver, and you see all of a sudden white realizes that they have a king too that needs protection. White cannot play rook takes e8 because rook takes d1 is a checkmate, and white has now to be preoccupied with defending their own king. After rook to d8, they played rook to d6. But then queen to c6, and you see again white cannot take black's queen because of rook d1 checkmate. It's a very beautiful move, queen c6. And if queen takes h6, there is a queen e4 check. And you can see this is also very quick checkmate because on king c1, queen c2 checkmate. And after king a1, knight c2 check, king b1, knight a3 check, king a1, queen b1 is a checkmate too. Well, white cannot take black's bishop, and white cannot take white cannot take black's rook, and white cannot take black's queen. So after queen c6, they played simply a3, but then rook takes d6, e takes d, and the queen takes d6. Now white takes black's knight and regains the material, but it's too late. Now c takes b. Now we see that black's king is well protected and white's background is bad, and white's king is widely open and game is practically over. Queen to e4, b3, knight to d4, and here black plays rook f4, and after queen a8, check, bishop to f8. Same would have happened if played rook e8 check, then king f7, and white is totally lost. I think it's very interesting, very sharp battle that either side was one move away from disaster several times. And very well played game by black and by white. Very interesting tactical shots, and that's what makes this game one of my most favorites, maybe the most favorite game I have ever seen played.